talk about the public charging stations. That's the one of the very, there is actually called the four pillars of e-mobility system. So in that, the first is itself the electric vehicle. The second, it comes the battery. The third is the re-energizing system. And fourth one, it comes the R&D efforts and the sourcing and everything. So the re-energizing system, which is the charging, is actually one of the important pillar, and where it is the requirement to be looked at so that the standardizations can happen and seamless drive of the vehicle should happen on that road. So in this effort, we are going to deliver you some information today, where we will be talking about the different of the charging methods which is available, and thereafter how it is differentiating between the home charging and the public charging. And many of the times you must be hearing of the swap bulk chargers. So what are those bulk chargers are, how it is the swapping stations are working, and what are the protocols that is getting used into these charging stations, and what are the standards that we have. Thereafter, we will see some of the economics behind of this thing. So how economic and how much time the break even could be achieved. What are the requirements that you require for the for establishing a charging station, and thereafter how you can make it operational. So there are the some of inputs that we are planning to provide you through this session. If you have the queries, so your queries are always welcome. You just write it into your chat window, your queries, and if I find it related to the current topics, to the ongoing session, I will answer it immediately. Otherwise, we will keep all the queries at the end of this session, where we will be talking personally and answering your queries. So moving ahead of the session related to the chargings. But before of charging, I would like to talk about the electric vehicles, because the chargers would be used by the electric vehicles, and we have the variety of electric vehicle types based on their categorizations. So once you are going to purchase the electric vehicle, the charging remains in your mind, that how would I charge the vehicle? What happens that like you purchased a vehicle, electric vehicle you purchase, there is a charger that has been given to you. The portable charger has been given to you. But always there is a one thing that remains in the back of your mind, that if I'm driving and then my battery is depleted, if I'm out of battery, so how would I get charged to the vehicle? So what are those different types, and how they are actually categorized related to the charging and the battery concerns? So this is the first thing that I would like to discuss you, and then we will be going straight to the charging. So it is the categories. If you see, it is the BEV, the battery electric vehicle, where we are completely dependent on battery. So the batteries are there, and then it is the plugged-in hybrid vehicle. So then it comes the hybrid vehicle categories, where we have the charging facilities and we have the gasoline features also. Thereafter, it is your hybrid electric vehicle, where we have both the things, and we are primarily dependent on the gasoline. Whereas in the plugged-in electric hybrid vehicles, plugged-in electric vehicles, we have the onboard charging feature, and we have the off features also, so that the both of the things, the electrical motor you can use for the transmission purpose. Thereafter, your plugged-in EV is there, so that's where these battery electric vehicle concept further drills down, and you have the plugged-in electric vehicle concept, where batteries are there, and that the battery takes the charge from the grid. And then it comes the extended range EV. That's the new concept as of now. So range anxiety is one of the biggest problem of the user. Normally, what it has been observed, and there are the lots of census data has been brought out, that generally, if related to the two-wheelers, if I talk about, so average of the two-wheeler goes around 10 to 20 kilometers per day. But whenever we go to purchase a vehicle, so always it remains in our mind that how much long backup the vehicle can give. Can it go to 80 kilometers, 90 kilometers in one charge? So that thing remains in my mind. Even I'm not using those things. Only few percentage of vehicles are going beyond 40-50 kilometers in case of a two-wheelers if I'm talking about. But that thing is a mindset which you cannot change. So that's why for this purpose, we have this extended range electric vehicles where you can add batteries. So like Gogoro is one company who has started like with Hero MotoCorp. So they have, they are giving you some range batteries like 30-40 kilometers range battery. And thereafter, as per your requirements, you can keep adding the batteries into it, like 2 to 3 batteries that you can add into it. So that's what the similar thing is possible in the four-wheeler applications and the bus applications also. So as per the route planning, the range extension through the batteries can happen. So for that purpose, also there are specific chargers are required. So these are the basic categories and the types that we have in our electric vehicle categories. And for each of them, the charging is required. So for some of them, like in case of the hybrid concepts, we have the gasolines also where the battery could be charged on board. Whereas in case of battery electric vehicles, we are completely dependent on the portable chargers through either in your home or maybe the public charging stations that is available. So one by one, if I look at, so it is the battery electric vehicle, that is the plugged electric vehicle subcategory that it is. So batteries are taking the charge from your grid and it is giving the charge to the traction motor of your vehicle, and that's how it is moving. So once it is a mutually exclusive process. The charging and discharging is a mutually exclusive process, and batteries are got charged through the electricity, which is when the electricity is available at a cheap through the plug, and they power the electric motor. So advantage that we have in the case of the battery electric vehicles, that it is a very, very low maintenance electric motors. So, and we have the variety of vehicles available. So nowadays, like the vehicles which you see all around you, the four-wheelers, mostly the like this Nexon or Tigor, all these are having these BEV feature, where we have the variety of choice of vehicles. All your two-wheelers are of those categories specifically. But here, there is a major problem of the range anxiety that remains in the mind of a user, that once the battery will deplete, so how can I charge? And to that purpose, this public charging infra is one of the solution for this. So, but there is, again, if there is a public charging infra, there is a difference between the filling petrols to your vehicle and filling the charge in your battery. So always it is a time issue is there, and more the time the resource will remain busy for the charging purpose. Like if I'm doing a slow charge, so around 3 to 4 hours of a slow charging time takes for your vehicle. So till that time, your resource remains busy, and the main resource which is in context of metro cities, if I'm talking about, it is the space that remain busy for 3-4 hours. So definitely there is the issue between the getting the margins and doing an efficient charge of your vehicle. So that's why also it is a big thing to be discussed when we are establishing the public charging stations, so that how we can manage both of these things, that getting the margins and using the resources minimum, so that we can get some good margins onto the services. So, and also it is also a mindset that is in the mind of a people. Like if I ask to you that normally how many times it happens that if you have to go to a place, so you start early half an hour or maybe 1 hour before. Like if you have to leave your office at 8 a.m. in the morning, so how many times it happens that you have the ample time and you leave it at say 7 a.m. Generally what happens that if you have to leave at 8 a.m. and you have to reach at 9 a.m. in your office, it takes 1 hour. So you leave maybe at exactly at 8 a.m. or maybe even a few minutes before or after that might happen. So generally we don't have time in our hand to get the things charged in between. If it is the petrol or diesel, so it will be taking you 2 to 3 minutes. But again, if it is the battery charging, that is going to take you at least over 20-30 minutes. So that those things remain a problem. So that's why moving charge is a little typical thing for the public charging stations. So that's the time issue and the mindset issue that will always remain in case of electric vehicles. So this is the disadvantage that we consider. Whereas the PEVs, the plugged-in hybrid electric vehicles, where we can give the extended range electric vehicles or plugged-in features both. So we have the both of the things. The batteries could be charged through your plug, the household electricity, and the fuel tank of your vehicle will be charged to the gasolines. So battery charged using electricity, and electricity is accessed through your plugs, and battery powers your electric motor. And then for the short trips, can distinguish that for the shorter trips where the battery is available to you, you can go on all electric, and for the longer range, you can go on your gasoline, gasoline fuel. So it is the like Honda Clarity, thereafter it is the Toyota Prius. So these are the vehicles which is having the plugged-in hybrid electric feature. And if you are completely drained out of your battery, then even for your shorter trips, this IC engine vehicle will be operating on. So we have these few advantages in case of PHEVs, that we can have the long driving range, like in BEVs. For the cars, if I'm talking about, generally of 50 kilometers of a range is available. But in case of, and in between, you need to fill the charge in your vehicle. And in case of PHEVs, so long driving ranges are possible because you have the gasoline in your tank, and we have the versatile fuel sources available for them. So we have the both of fuel sources. So that's why a less of complexity remain in your mind related to the how long can I drive. So, but related to the, compared to the battery electric vehicles, we have more maintenance in this. And for the long range, you are more reliant upon the gasoline. So IC engine vehicles, so that is again adding the pollution. So if green energy is in your mind, so there this concept of green energy is vanishing in case of the plugged-in hybrid electric vehicles. And then we have the hybrid electric vehicles, where we have the smaller batteries, and the batteries are getting charged through the IC engine vehicle motor movement. So here the onboard charger that we have available in this case, and that onboard charger is charging the internal battery. So for fewer of operations, so here the main thing will remain your IC engine vehicle, and for fewer or for secondary loads, the battery remains operational. So that is a generic hybrid concept. So like you are going for the cruising purpose, for same speed you have to maintain. So in that case, the battery will remain operational. Otherwise, if you are accelerating or driving in higher speeds, so in that case, the IC engine vehicle will be operational in those cases. So, and battery will get automatically recharged while we are driving. So in this case, the electrical motors, the battery is powering the electrical motor, but that electrical motor is not actually driving your main vehicle. ICE powertrain is not getting driven by the electrical motor. It is the working as an assistant. So to increase the fuel efficiency and the emissions of your vehicle. So these are the basically the different categories. And for these categories, all of them, so if you see hybrid, we don't require the charging stations because it is charging, and while our vehicle is moving, so that time the batteries are getting charged. And normally there is a concept in case of a hybrid electric vehicle that you return completely drained. It means what? That most of the capacity of your battery should be consumed while driving. It is not like that we keep only charging the battery through our IC engine powertrain, and battery is sitting idle, it is doing nothing. So most of the capacity should be used. Whereas in case of a PHEVs and BEVs, we require the charging. Those charging can happen either at your home, maybe in your office, or maybe while you are moving, or maybe some of the places where you have go for your leisure time, like malls or restaurants or anywhere. And all these places, so if it is at your home where the generic metering is happening, means your main meter is there, and that is through the electricity plug of your home, you are taking the charge. So it is the home charging that we consider. But if we are doing it at a public place for the mass, then the specific metering method is being applied. The specific power requirements are there, that is through the DISCOM, and someone else is managing all those infrastructure, like some companies managing all those infrastructure. So we have come into the public space. So there, once we have come into the public space, so then there is a requirement of a proper resources and the standards, so that each of the vehicle could be served for that purpose. And then this public charging infrastructure comes into the picture. So it started with a very, very discreet way, like you know that initially it was the e-rickshaw was there majorly in electrical segment, and there people have started with the some discrete chargers, the high kilowatt chargers, where the multiple of rickshaws could be charged at the same time. Maybe 5 or 6 rickshaws could be charged. And then it has become trained, where now it is completely in an integrated format, where that information is on a cloud, related to the booking of the vehicles, and thereafter when the charge slot is available, where the chargers are located. So every information that you can get now, and lots of companies have deployed their applications for this purpose, and Google is also now supporting this thing. So that's how this concept of public charging has come into the picture. So basically it remains the chargers, actually at the end it remains the chargers and the resources related to it, and then how we can meter the things. So as more and more resources we can utilize for our charging stations, the business will remain meaningful for us. But if we are not able to use the resources available, and we are not able to get the footfall related to the vehicles, so then it would be very hard to get the break evens for this in this charging station business. So but before of that, what are those different chargers are, and what are their constraints, what are the requirements that for establishing this thing. So all these things that is the agenda which I'm going to discuss you today. So whenever you are going to select your vehicle, so here still I'm on the vehicle. So whenever you are going to select your vehicle, you have multiple of the things in your mind, and those things are majorly related to your chargers. So first it is the range of your vehicle, that what range do you need, and how often you go to that range. Like whether you are taking your vehicle just for 100 kilometers drive, city drive that you are taking, or maybe the highway drive. So that range. Thereafter, if you are going for the city drive or maybe for the highway drive, so in your route, whether there is access for the chargers, re-energizing system is there or not. And that's where the concept of the public charging station will come, that for the vehicle which is being driven on that highway or maybe in that city, the chargers are available for those ranges or not. That's what a bigger thing is. Yeah, like in your vehicle, in your city, if it is a majorly of a two-wheelers are there, and you have established the chargers which is having a 50 kilowatt of a capacity or maybe even higher, then establishing those chargers will be of no use. So you have to, whenever you are going to establish or thinking of any of the establishing any charge point in your city, so you have to do a kind of operational research, that what is the strength of the vehicles, which one type of vehicles are available in your city, and where the majority of footfalls are, and based on which always you plan these things. So charging, thereafter the charge acceptance rate, that's what I have talked about. So the thing is that whether the vehicle and the charger are agreeing on the charge acceptance rate or not. So like if it is the 3 kilowatt, the batteries are maximum in the city, and I am having the 15 kilowatt charger or a 50 kilowatt charger, that will be often no use, because it will actually giving the charge at a higher C rate, and that will drop the life of the battery, and even many of the times it will lead to the burning thermal effects. So that's why the charge acceptance rate is quite critical while establishing the charging stations and related to the vehicles. So the vehicle who is going to the charging stations, this thing is important for them. The fast charging is accepted by your vehicle or not. So normally what happens that we hear of a fast charging or a slow charging, but actually it is a wrong misnomer. There is nothing called fast charging or a slow charging. It is actually dependent on your C rate. So generally this is related to your battery. So same charger can be a fast for one battery pack and can be slower for the another battery pack. So never get confused in the fast charger and slow charger. Just take the battery which you are going to charge. If it is if the battery pack is going to be charged at maximum of a 1C rate, so 1C rate or even slower of this will be considered as a slow charging. Even 1C rate in most of the places, the 1C rate is also considered as the fast charging. So globally, if I say, so the below of 1C rate charging is actually the slow charging, and 1C and higher C rates are actually the fast chargings. So depending on your battery pack, any of the charger will become the fast or slow charger. So thereafter, it is the battery life and warranty. So that's the concern of the electric vehicle, and battery life and battery life is completely dependent on the charging that is being done on the vehicle. So if it is the maximum of times you are doing the fast charging to your battery pack, so that will be actually depleting the life of the battery around 1/3 of the life that gets depleted in those conditions if you are not maintaining the proper charge conditions, because the temperature increases and that leads to the thermal runaway conditions. So these are the selections once through the mind of an electric vehicle a customer, which I am putting to you once you are going to establish a charging station. So then so this is the getting charged. I'm going to talk you now. So once we are going to talk about the charging, so this thing, the charging approach. So in the charging approach, there are the two important things. Is one thing is your the charge equipment. That's the electric vehicle supply equipment that we call EVSE, which will be giving the charge to your vehicle. So that must be as per the standards and the requirement for your vehicle. And second thing is the battery acceptance rate. So the charger and the battery acceptance rate is actually the C rate that I have talked about. So for your battery pack, which one C rate is suitable one, so that it doesn't go into a thermal runaway. And in this condition, there are the different timings. Like if I'm doing a slow charging, if I'm charging the battery pack at a 0.5 C rate or maybe at a 1 C rate, it is taking maybe 8 hours, 9 hours. So the same if I charge it at a 2 C rate, if it is alloying, because you have to also look at the battery pack which you are using, how much of C rate it is alloying. If it is allowing to go to you 3C rates or a 4C rates, then definitely your timing will be very smaller in that case. But at the same time, you have to also look at that how much impact it is giving on your battery pack if you are going beyond 1C rate of a charging. So if it is the normal charging, which is the portable charger which you have been given by your manufacturer, they are generally charging below 1C of a rate, and that's why it is the overnight chargers they are called. Whereas the public charging stations that you go, so they are having the slow chargers where the below of 1C rate of a charging and the fast chargers both are available. Now in the public, in your home, you are doing mostly the AC charging. So, and once you go to the public charging stations, you have the AC chargers and the DC chargers both available. So in case of a DC, we can give the charge at a very fast of a rate. So like you are on a highway, and there you need the charge very, very fast. So maybe 30 minutes of a charge, or that's what also could be possible. So that's through the DC chargers that is happening, and there are the particular methods for it. So we have the different levels of a chargers which can deliver the charge in the different of time intervals, and by managing the different of current rates for your battery pack. So level 1 charger, generally it is the in our case of India, it is the that's what your electrical socket that is available to you, which is a 230 volt electrical socket that is available. And there are the two current ratings that you have available, the 5 amperes current and a 15 amperes of a current. So two types of plugs that you are having available. So like for your chargers, which require the charging current below of 5 amperes, like for your electric bicycles, where 2 or 3 amperes of a current is enough for that purpose. So in that condition, you can use the standard 5-pin standard smaller shape outlets, which you use for your normal power applications. And in this condition, the cord and everything that comes along with your vehicle itself. And then it is for the sorter of a commutes 30-40 miles or kilometers for a day. Whereas the higher of the charge, so that was for the smaller charge, and thereafter in your home also there are the 15 ampere plugs are available. So 230 volt and 15 amperes plug. So if it is the single phase charging, so you are done with the 3 kilowatts of the charge of the energy that you require for the charging. So you can do it with the 230 volt 15 amperes single phase plugs, like you are using for your AC air conditioning applications. Whereas if you require the beyond the 3 kilowatt, if your requirement is, then it is the three phase of supply that you require, and that will be coming under the level 2 chargers. So both of the things are possible in your home. Generally in our home, we have the single phase power supply available. So up to 3 kilowatt of charging that we do in our home itself. And when it is beyond, so like if you require 415 volt of for the AC, that's the requirement if you have. In that condition, either you have to take the 3-phase supply in your home, or maybe in your office or in your society. There are the establishments now happening, like in the societies which is getting erected now, they have these dedicated 3-phase supply for the public charging station, for the charging station. Those are not public charging stations. Those are the charging points in your parking of your multi-level society. So this depends upon your delivery rate, like the availability is there up to 15 of amperes. Now it is dependent on your vehicle that how much the voltage and current that it requires. Like for Tata Tigor, if I'm talking about, so it is the 72 volt of the voltage that it requires. Whereas if you are going towards the Kona and the Nexon, the Tata Nexon, then you will be ranging the voltage your 350 to 400 volts. So depending on that conditions, the single phase and 3-phase requirements are there. And the current rate is completely dependent on the acceptance rate of the charge by the batteries. So generally we call it as the vehicle acceptance rate, but this is again a wrong thing. The EVs are not, it is the batteries, those are getting charged. So always talk about the battery acceptances. Just to mention, I have noted here the vehicle thing. And for the longer commutes, this remains good. So in some of the cases, you might require the electrical panel upgrade, like to give the safety, you have to include the MCCB, the miniature circuit breakers in your home. If you are doing in your home, so miniature circuit breakers might be required for your purpose. So for home, for this purpose, there are the things which is in consideration is the charging speed. So depending on the C rate of your battery pack, what would be the speed? So this would be considered in the C rate. Thereafter, the electricity that is going in your vehicle. So how many number of units that your vehicle is going to use for the charging purpose. The portability of your charger, so generally the chargers remain portable. Thereafter, the cord length. So like if it is your, then this is the scenario that comes in the case of your like electric scooters. So you have the, like in your apartment, you have a flat in the upper floor where the 15 ampere is available, but your scooter is downwards. So in that condition, you don't have the much of the cord length available. And if you are increasing the cord length for the charging, the current rate will drop down because of the DC cannot go for the larger of the distances. So in that condition, we have these portable battery packs now available, with many of the scooters, you see the portable battery packs are available. And in case of a swapping, that also remain usable. Portability should be in a such a way that it should not take you more than 2 minutes for bringing out the battery pack from your vehicle and then putting it back into it. So maximum of 2 minutes, that is standard that has been followed. And then it is the wires which has been used for the charger to be connected. So these are the considerations and options we have in case of home charging scenarios. Whereas so many of the times you would be able to do the things for your, like it is the 3-phase supply that you require. So maybe many of the times you are able to manage the things in your home or in your office or in your apartment, but most of the times for the common mass, it is not available. And there this concept of a public charging come. So if it is the single phase 5 amperes or 15 amperes of a supply is required for the vehicle, things could be done in the home itself. And initial vehicles were those range only, whether it is the 4-wheelers also. But nowadays the vehicles are coming, which is requiring the, like in case of a 4-wheelers, it is the 400 volts of a voltage that they require. And the current that they require is almost in the range of 125 of amperes. So in that condition, home charging is not possible. And there this concept of a public charging has come into. So these public chargings are typically the places where you can have the footfalls. So maybe in the parking lots, maybe in the leisure points, the joints, thereafter the hotels, all these places you can find these public chargers, because again, the public chargers have the classifications. So the charging stations which can make you movable within 30 minutes of a time period, that is supported most at the highways places or maybe at the motels where you have where you are moving from one city to another, and then at one of the motel you have halted for 20-30 minutes. There you become movable in the next 30 minutes. So that's the fast chargers public charging category. And there are the public chargers which will be giving you charge in 3-4 hours, like getting settled. Those chargers are majorly remain established in the malls or maybe in the parking lots, in the restaurants. Restaurants are very few, but in the malls where there are the movie theaters and the food courts are there. Thereafter in the parking lot of your offices. So these type of chargers are getting established. So, and then we have the working charger. So opportunity charging is which is available in the parking lots majorly, or maybe in malls, which I have talked about. So you have gone over there. Anyhow, you have to park the vehicle for which you will be paying the fees for the parking. But if you are having if this thing is available, the charging infra is available in that mall. So maybe you can park your vehicle in that charging station. In the meantime, you are taking the view of the movie or spending your time in the food court. In the same time, your vehicle is also getting charged, and you are not paying the parking fees, because that charging station is already taking you the money for charging the vehicle and the parking fee including of it. So that's the opportunity charging. That's why I call it. Whereas work charging is like the employee vehicles or fleet operators charging places. Like many of the electric fleet operators are now available, and they are charging it now. And in all these places, if you find, it is the 3-pin to 5-pin sockets. In 4-wheelers now, the 7-pin sockets are also available. So depending on the requirement of the charging and the communication, these pins are there. So if it is the AC charging, where it is only the charging has to be supplied, there is no requirement of a communication between the vehicle, between the charger and the battery pack. So majorly it is the 3-pin that you will see. Or in case of a single phase charging, you will be seeing the 3-pin. But if it is the 3-phase charging, then you will have the 3 phases and then the neutral and earth. So 5-pin you will require. If it is the DC chargers, so then you will have the 7-pin infrastructure, where the apart from this power supply, you have the wires for the communication also, because in case of a DC chargers, the communication is very much required between the charger and the battery pack, so that the battery could be charged efficiently. But so first the handshaking happens as per the protocol, the handshaking happens and then the charging is done. So for that purpose, there is the pin out options are there. Now earlier there was a much of a difference, and vehicle to vehicle the connectors were varying, but nowadays almost all the manufacturers are taking the similar approach of providing the similar kind of a connector so that this thing can settle down. So we have talked about the level 1 and level 2, those were the AC chargers, and in level 3 it comes the DC charger. So DC chargers are majorly for the coming in the fast charging category, where it is available for generally for 50 kilowatt and above range, 550 to 300 kilowatts of a range, and it can charge your vehicle into around over 30 minutes. So fast charging that it can do related to your battery pack. Higher of a C rate it has available, which your battery can draw. And but once you are going to the DC fast chargers, you have to look at that whether your battery pack is supporting those fast chargings or not. Like for an example, you have gone to a DC fast charging, you have a Nexon and you have gone to a DC fast charging station, so it will be supporting. But if you have the Tigor, Tata Tigor, the same four-wheeler it is, but it is not supporting that fast charging method. So because the 72 volt is being used there. So in that condition, you have to look at that which one is whether your vehicle is supporting the fast charging or not, and how much the kilowatt of energy that it can intake. So that's why this is the one of the concern related to the standardizations that will remain. And three types that we have, but there is one more thing, that if you are doing more and often the DC fast chargings, so it has a very huge impact on the battery life, because once this fast charging is happening on your battery pack, it increases the internal temperature of your battery packs because of the movement of the ions. Like if you know the technology behind the lithium ion, so you have the knowledge that it is the movement of flow of ions happen fast, and that will lead to the increase into the internal temperature. And if it is the higher of internal resistance that lithium ion has, so the again very high of temperature increase, and that temperature increase leads to the bleeding of current. That will again increase the temperature. So a chain reaction kind of a thing happens, and battery pack temperature go beyond around the cell temperature go beyond 250 or 270 degrees centigrade. So in that condition, either it can burst or it will leak if you have not the proper thermal management methods. So those all things are leading the shortening of the battery life. And even it is not bursting, but with every charge and discharge cycle, the sum of the property of your chemistry is depleting, and if we are not managing the thing, so that depletion becomes faster. So that's what the things are related to the DC fast charging. So if we are really in a hurry, only related to the electric vehicle user, if I'm telling you, so if you are really in a hurry, only then you use the DC fast charging method. But through the eyes of a public charging company, I will say that the people should use the fast charging, because it will involve the less of resources. So this is the technology is there. Now it is depending on the customer or the company who is established it. So there are the two perspectives of this thing. So even your pack is supporting the fast charging, that the life, there is a depletion in the life that will happen. So these things are concerned related to these all things are there in the discussions when maybe we have done earlier on the lithium ions technology. So this DC fast charging method is majorly been used for the quick charging methods, and the standards which is there in the DC fast charging is a CHAdeMO or CCS method. So CHAdeMO is there for the Japanese, and CCS is from the USA, SAE. And then there is a specific, Tesla has again their own protocol, like Tesla is coming here. So that's why I've kept here. So Tesla is having their own protocol, Tesla superchargers, and that is mostly nearing to the CHAdeMO adapters. So these are the fast chargers available, and these fast chargers are generally beyond the 50 kilowatt of a range to be used. So summing up all these things, if I categorize, we have two category of a chargers. It is the personal chargers and the public chargers. So personal chargers are also called your standalone chargers, which is there for your two-wheeler and three-wheeler vehicles, which you can use at your home. And in the personal chargers, we have the batteries, fixed batteries. You can charge it anywhere if you have the electrical socket available and the portable charger available with you. Whereas in case of public chargings, we have the two methods. Either we can do the slow charging or the fast charging. In both of the cases, like slow charging you are doing, it is essentially a AC, which is in case of India, there is again a standard is there, which I'm going to discuss now. And this thing is like the AC we are using. So if you, in your home you are using it either a single phase or a three phase of a supply. And in your home, there is no special metering is being used. But the same chargers, similar kind of output we have, and we are doing it in a public environment. So then the special metering method is being used, and the public chargings are they are considered under the public chargers. Thus, the charging equipment remains almost similar, but based on the metering concept, it can be in the home and the public environment it will become. So many of the places you must be seeing nowadays that the shops are establishing the chargers, or maybe in your societies, the parking lots, the chargers are getting established. In your office, the charging points are getting established. So these are the actually chargers which can deliver the charge within 3-4 hours of a time period. And in some of the places, it can be metered. In some of the places, it cannot be. Like you have the facility available in your office to get your vehicle charged, and you can get it charged. Maybe the no charge is taken from you, it is getting added in your CTC. So that's the availability, that's the feature have. But if it is in the complete public environment where one can go and charge, so then the special metering is being done. And then we have the fast chargers. So in the case of fast chargers, we have the AC and DC both, but majorly you will find it as the DC, where the CHAdeMO and the CCS chargers are there. So this is for the majority of places in your parking lots, hotels, offices, all these places, the establishments are there and the companies are doing it on a group basis. And then we have the bulk chargers. So bulk chargers are actually not the charging stations, they are the swapping stations actually. So one concept is that you go to your charging station, you charge your vehicle if you have the enough time. But if you don't have the enough time, in that case, what will happen? So there are the protocols coming up and the infrastructure is being drawn where we have the battery swapping feature. So it will take you just 2 to 3 minutes and you can swap your batteries in those swapping stations. So some of the companies are doing all those things also. And for that, the protocol is also coming up. So to charge the batteries at these swapping stations, the chargers are available, and which is charging the batteries at a 20-30 batteries at the same time. So in the rack, as you can see over here, in the rack, the batteries are there and it is getting charged simultaneously. So that's where this bulk chargers are there. But in case of a vehicles, it is generally not considered. For the swapping stations, it is being considered. So if I have to see the charging flow in a brief, so it is the charging flow. So it starts from the user, like the mobile application is there in the hand of the user, and who is searching, like I'm the person who is in need of the charging of my vehicle. So I can search that where is the nearest charge point, and where the slot is available, that will be connected to the central management system. This central management system is taking care of each and everything related to the charging. So this is like when the slot is available, who is charging, how many charge has been consumed, how much the energy is consumed, what is the fee. So everything that has been taken care in the CMS, this software is available, and this remains connected to the electric vehicle supply equipment, the charger specifically, and through the charger, the EV is connected. So if you see, we have the interfaces. So one interface is between the mobile application to the CMS. Thereafter, between the CMS and EVSE, there is another interface. And between your EV and EVSE, there is the third interface. So this is the hard interface. And all these places, this is the soft interfaces we have. So between the mobile application and CMS, it is the vendor specific communication that is happening. Like every vendor will have their separate UIs, and based on which the selections and everything could be possible. So if every company is providing their separate mobile application, and based on which you can do the selections of the charging slots and each and everything, the accessories. And so this is the standard protocol that is developed, and it is completely working on the cloud. Thereafter, we have the CMS and EVSE communication. So this is again a cloud-based software which is communicating with your electric vehicle supply equipment. And here the protocol that is working is OCPP. So this is in context of India I'm talking about, and globally for Europe and American region also, this is the similar protocol it is. This is Open Charge Point Protocol. So this takes care of the user authorizations, which one user has connected to the EV, means the vehicle is there connected on the EVSE, the user is connected to the CMS. So there is a linkage that has to be done between the EV and the user. So all these things are being considered by this OCPP protocol, and that is between the CMS and the EVSE. So this is again a soft protocol where we are not very much concerned, because this is a standard and developed one. The main concern remains between the EV and EVSE, your electric vehicle and the supply equipment, because the first of the thing that the connector should be matching, because this is a hard thing. So the connector should be matching. And generally we have now available the variety of connectors with our charging stations, so that the connector matching is there. Thereafter, the charge acceptance rate of your vehicle battery pack, and how much it is delivering, whether you are going for the slow charging or for the fast charging. So all these things that will be considered under the EV and EVSE communication, and the safety and the reliability of the battery pack of your vehicle actually completely depends upon the communication between your EV and EVSE. And that's where the main concern remains. And so we are designing, so the battery packs are designed nowadays with the battery packs which will be used in the public charging infrastructures. They are designed in such a way that they can communicate these sensory informations to the equipment through the protocol, and that's how the complete safe charging could be ensured to your vehicle. So this is the guarantee. This communication guarantees the safe and secure supply of the energy to your vehicle. And for this purpose, these protocols are used. So here we have the standard protocols of the cloud and the Wi-Fi communications. Here the OCPP. And for this thing, there are the variety of protocols that you may be hearing of. That this is the these are the protocols. Which one is a protocol I should implement, or what is the requirement? So these are the different protocols that has been used, and the previously which I have discussed, the level 1, level 2, and DC. All these things are related to the EV and EVSE communication. So in context of India, the majority is 2. The BIS is having the protocol which is completely based on the. So BIS has done what, that it has taken the all the necessary things, because all these protocols, the SAE, IC, GBT, all these are established well earlier, and we didn't have the protocols. So BIS has taken this step and taken the important points which is relevant for the Indian context, and made their own protocol based for this purpose. This is under the IS 17017, this documentation number. So we have the working over here, the GBT protocols. So many of your chargers that you will see, we have the GBYT protocol. Thereafter, we have the CharDemo chargers also. We have the CCS chargers also. So these are available. But what the thing is that all the chargers, the GBYT or CharDemo or CCS, all these are the fast chargers and of the higher kilowatts. But in context of India, like the majority of the vehicles were two-wheeler, and where the voltage was 48 volts, 60 volts, 72 volts, such kind of voltage, where these charging standards were not supported. So then the Department of Heavy Industries also came into picture, and they have developed the standards for AC 001 and DC 001. So this is applicable to all the now two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and the four-wheeler applications. And they have also modified the GB by T. So this is actually from China. The GB by T is actually from China. So they have modified the GB by T protocol also. So many of the Chinese manufacturers chargers also you will see in India because of this protocol getting modified. So these are the three protocols. Basically, it is the standards. BIS and DHI has laid their standards, and on these, the AC001 and DC001, that is the Bharat charger it is called, that is the primary charging protocols that has been used. And then we have the GB by T and CHAdeMO and the CCS for the fast chargings and the higher charging methods, and that is for the DC specifically. So globally, if I see, so it is the AC001 has again been taken from the global standards. So it ranges from your if it is the American region, it is the 120 volt is there, and in context of India, it is 230 volts to 415 volts. So 120 volt to 480 volt from single phase to three phase, this AC001 is applying, where we have the charging amperes between the 12 amperes to the 60 amperes, 200 amperes. So the three levels that we have, majority for the single phase, we have the 230 volt single phase, 15 ampere of a supply, and which can take a load of up to 3 kilowatt generally in our home purpose. But if you are doing it in the public charging infrastructures, it can go to up to 32 amperes of a range, and you can handle up to 20 kilowatts of the charging load. So these are the AC chargers global standards, and in context of India, the single phase and three phases got to be used. So AC chargers can also do the 50 kilowatt of a charge, but it is taking time. So then we have the CHAdeMO and the CCS chargers, which can be used for the more than 50 kilowatt of a charging. So these are based on the protocols, and once the charging is happening, so in case of a AC charging, very some of the times, very rare of the chance you require the communication between the charger and the battery pack, because it is the standard charge that is being, so AC is getting converted to the DC, and as per the requirement of your battery pack, the BMS has the information, and BMS allows only those much amount of a flow of current to your battery pack. So the very less of time the communication that we require. But if it is the DC charging, so the communication has to be there between the charger and the battery pack. So the handshakings and then the flow of charge, and thereafter the knowing the charge has completed or not. So for all this purpose, there are the particular protocol suites are followed. And those protocol suites are the CHAdeMO, GB by T, and the CCS. So combined charging system is the CCS. And for this purpose, majorly the CAN communication. So in our vehicle, specifically the CAN network is being used. So CAN protocols are generally been used for this purpose. But in the case of a CCS, the PLC communication line has been used. So if you see, it is the first it happens the handshaking between the charger and the battery pack. So so that the information exchange, it is the secure communication that happens between the charger and battery pack, so that if it is the proprietary network, so again it can identify that whether the battery pack is of my network or not. And if it is on a public network, so then the session could be established for the secure communication of a data, because the battery data is vital, and that could be misused. For that purpose, the session establishment is there. So either the only handshaking for the secured communication, or a session setup for the secured communication that happens in case of all the protocols. Thereafter, the preparation stage is there, in which we have the parameter configurations, and in case of a CCS, the parameter is got discovered through the BMS. And in case of a GB by T, we can configure through the vehicle. So we have the Bluetooth communication available through which we can do the charging parameter configurations. Then it happens the charging stage. So in the case of a GB by T and the CHAdeMO, we have the single stage charging. Whereas in case of CCS, we have the a 4-stage charging. So first it is the cable is being discovered and checked for the of whether it is able to deliver that much amount of a current or not. Thereafter, the pre-charging is being done for the purpose to manage the temperatures within the thermal effects on the battery pack through the charger. And then as per the demand of the battery pack, the current is being supplied, and then it comes the delivery of the power. So it is a 4-stage charging that we call. And at the end, it is the shutdown or end of charging is applied in all of these protocols. So for the fast charging methods, these standard protocols are being used. And for this purpose, the communication is got required. So this starts, and this is working at the physical layer, because it is the communication between your EV and EVSE. So this is working at the physical layer, and then the charging is charge is being transferred, energy is being transferred between the EVSE to EV. So comparatively, if you have to see, it is the CharDemo has the output voltage of around 500 volt DC, and that is the majority of our four-wheeler applications are maximum. And it is working on the CAN protocol, and the communication speed remains of a 500 kbps. Whereas GB/T can go up to 1500 volt DC. So this is from China. GB/T is from China, and it also works on the CAN protocol, but the communication speed is a little slower, and it can support the extended CAN features. Whereas the CCS chargers can go up to this ISO 15118. It is the CCS charging protocol that can go to up to thousands volts of a DC supply. And here the IPv6 is the speed and the safety level. And in this, the secured communication happens through the XML interchanges, because the PLC is there. So 4-stage communication happens, and the XML interchange happens for the security purpose. So these are the 3 protocols for the DC purpose. And for the AC, as I have discussed, it is the AC001 is being applied. So as the connectors are concerned, so for our Bharat chargers, for the AC001 and DC001, you can see it is the either 3-pin plug outs or the 5-pin plug outs. So 5-pin plug outs, or in Nexon, it is the 7-pin plug outs are also there. So depending on the communication lines, like whether it is the 2-wire communication or a 3-wire communication, it is the so generally for the CAN, it is the 2-wire communication that has been followed. So 3-phase supply, and then the neutral and earth, and then the 2-wire for the communication. So 7 wires are also used for the Nexon purpose. So this is the connectors for this, and then we have the SAE standards. So Society of Automotive Engineers standards is there. That is for the level 1 and level 2, and level 1, level 2 for the DC. And then we have the European standards, and then the Japanese standards for the CharDemo. So these are the different shapes of the connectors that is being used, and majority it starts from the 3-pin, and it goes, generally you will find it 5 pins, but the communication, in case of a communication, you have the 7-pin structures also. So these are the generic connectors that are getting used nowadays, and it is getting standardized now. So that was related to the requirements for the protocols and the technology overview behind the public chargings. But always the public charging is not remain beneficial, and we have the operational the capital cost also involved here. So earlier, what happens that the electric vehicle manufacturers who are making the vehicles has to give the battery packs, and the battery pack was a proprietary with the vehicle. It is actually embedded with the vehicle. So then it is that, and the cost of the vehicle is also increasing, due to which, because the 30-40% cost of the vehicle is almost the battery pack. But nowadays, from last year, you see that the government has allowed the energy operators at a separate business. So it is now possible to bring down lowering the cost of the vehicle, and batteries could be separate. Battery could be separate business as the petrol or diesel business is. And there the people have come into the swapping companies. So in this case, the battery from the capital cost, it can be brought into the operational cost batteries. So here the cost of the batteries will be borne by the people who are who are the energy operators, and the person like you, the EV consumer, is only paying for the charge that is inside it, like in your petrol vehicle. So you are not paying for the for the energy tank, for the petrol tank which is there in your vehicle, but you are paying for the petrol that is getting filled up. So similar way is there in the in the case of the swapping infrastructure of the batteries also there, that you have to pay for the energy, but there is a little difference in this case. So in case of a petrol or diesel fillings, so the life of the petrol or diesel tank which is there in your vehicle is not getting depleted with every filling cycle. So that's why you pay only for the petrol or diesel, and the life of the vehicle is the maintenance. But in case of the batteries, what happens that with every charge and discharge cycle, there is just some loss of life to the battery pack happens. So in this case, the swapping companies also considers the depletion of a rate of the battery, and that gets added into the operational cost. So in case of the operational cost of the battery swapping, it is not only the energy cost, but you will also have to pay the fraction of a battery cost into this, and that's how you manage the swapping infrastructure. Here is just, if you have not seen the working demo of so here is just a working demo of a swapping station you can see. So Sun Mobility is one of the a big company who is operating in the swapping. So just have a look at how do they operate.
Sun Mobility addresses the key issues facing electric vehicles, which are high cost, range anxiety, and long refueling time. Sun Mobility's interoperable smart mobility solution offers a single energy infrastructure platform for all small electric vehicles such as e-bikes, e-scooters, e-rickshaws, e-autos and micro-trucks. This solution comprises of Sun Mobility's smart batteries and quick interchange stations, all linked together through a smart network. This interoperable solution can transform the way people commute in cities.
So here in case of a swapping, actually the calculations of the charge is been there in the system through the swapping station, and the user is charged for that purpose. It takes hardly 2 to 3 minutes for the swapping, and the charging happens at the back end. Here is the Sun Mobility. So one of our client is also like the use case, which what I wanted to share you. So one of our client is doing this similar kind of a thing for in some states for the Swiggy and Zomato, and really it is a beneficial business compared to the a generic of the public charging stations where you are waiting for the people to come in and get charged, and because majorly we have the two-wheelers as of now. But if you are doing this thing for the fleet operators, or maybe or these kind of a food operators or the grocery deliveries, there is a lots of chance that you can have that you can earn a good sum for the swappings, where you own the batteries or maybe the vehicle also, and you provide it on the rental basis and charge either a fixed charge that you can take, or maybe the variable things that you can apply on. So the swapping is also picking up nowadays very fast, and it has a good opportunity. So in case of a swapping, again, there are the two architecture that has been followed. So because the battery packs which is coming from the user, they will come in a discharge states. So you can manage them in two ways. Either you can charge the battery packs at the swapping stations itself, or you can have a centralized charging station where you can charge all the batteries, and the swapping stations are only for the charging purpose only. So that's what this architecture is. So I say it as a standalone model, and the another one I say it as a hub and spoke model. So if you have like within a range, like in a city, you have 10 such swapping stations. So in place of establishing in place of establishing the charging stations at all of your swapping stations, you might establish a one charging station location in the city, and the chargers, these swapping stations will be delivered the charged battery packs, which is got charged at your centralized charging locations. So both of the things are possible, and for both of them the protocols are designed for this purpose now. So application wise, if I see, so it is the, in case of a swapping standalone model, you have the users which is interacting with the CMS, and then we have the charging and swapping stations that is interacting, and then the charging, the users are being delivered the charged battery pack. So it is requesting the through the CMS to this charging station, and then users are delivered the full charged battery packs, and the depleted battery pack is collected from the user. Here you can also ensure the life of your battery pack, because here the owner of this battery pack is the energy operator who is managing this charging station. So he will always ensure that the batteries should have the bigger life cycles. So in that condition, if you are an energy operator, you will always do the slow charging. You will very rarely do the fast charging of your battery pack. So the life of this battery pack would also be ensured in this condition of a swapping compared to the public charging stations. So, and there is also a concern of a safety comes over here, because in the public charging station, actually the battery pack is the consumer himself, but here the owner of the battery pack is actually the energy operator. So what happens in case of the user flees away with your battery pack? So that thing remains a concern, but again, there are the security methods for this, like the locking mechanisms are there, and then you have the complete tracking mechanism. Then we are having the protocols where we lock the battery pack with the vehicle itself. So locking means the protocol locking, that only your battery pack will be working with his vehicle, and only and the charger to battery pack locking. So in that context, the battery pack, which is of yours, will be charged through your charging station only. No other charging station can charge it. So these are the locking mechanisms that we apply and can save these things. So up some level of a security that we can ensure, and these things remain an issue of a concern. So whenever you talk to any of the energy operator, you will face these things in a talk. And then it is the centralized model we have, where again everything remains the same. In the front end, it is the driver who is communicating to the CMS, requesting for the swapping outlets for the swapping of the batteries, and the customer comes. So it is at this end. So this is this end where the drivers and the swapping station is concerned, and doing the swapping of the battery packs. But in the background, these battery packs are not getting charged over here. So we have another charging station, and in that charging station, the batteries are getting charged in a rack, and the logistics is being applied for the transporting of the charged and the discharged batteries to and from. So in this case, we have the chargers, and those chargers are called the bulk chargers. So previously we have seen the public chargers. One charger is charging the vehicle one at a time. In case of the bulk chargers, we have the multiple batteries could be charged at the same of the time. And for that purpose, we have the grid connection that is required. Two models are being followed in the swapping architecture. In case of India, we have the protocol now, and both of these things are now supported under this protocol, where we have the method for the purpose of standalone charging, or it is the bulk chargings. So for the protocols are there. And in case of bulk chargers, we have the local communication that is happening. And then from here, the OMS, the operational management system, will remain in the communication of the central management, and the user can book through the CMS, and the information is being delivered to the operational management system, so that it can track in real time that at which of the swapping outlet, how much the footfall is there, and as per that, the batteries are getting supplied. So that's again a beneficial thing, that if you have the only one place, the bulk charging stations, so depending on the footfall of the people, you can plan that where should be our swapping stations. And in case of this public charging setups. So once you have established at one place, it is very hard to move from one place to another. But for this thing, again, the standardizations related to the battery packs are required, and things are taking time because the energy operation business is started now. And this year you must be seeing that lots of EV fleet operators have entered into the market. So then once the fleet operators are there and the single architecture of the battery pack will be used by the different of the EV manufacturers, in that condition, swapping will be more meaningful, and it will be of a more of a use. So these are the considerations related to the swapping stations. Now, if I'm going to look at the public charging economics, so some of the concerns, these concerns are related to your where we should establish it. So first off thing, it comes in our mind is the highways, but maybe highways will not be the best place to establish your batteries, because right now it is the intercity traffic for the electric vehicles is little lesser and very less in these conditions. Maybe by the next year or next to next year, you will have the 1,000 or more than thousands of vehicle that is going throughout the highways. But right now it is the joints where their people go and spend some time. Those are the locations where it is the best one. Like for malls, for parking lots, these are the places where the main revenue can come through. So people won't be parking the vehicles in their parking lots and maybe giving the vehicle to charge at your charging stations. So maybe 5-6 vehicles capacity charging station that you establish. So then it would be a kind of thing which can bring the break even for you. In case of, again, you need to see the space concerns. So whether the space is a self, in case of like the majority of electric vehicles are majorly in the metro cities, if I'm talking about. So the self, if you don't have the self land available, in that condition, rented will become a quite bulky for you, quite costlier for you. And we should look at the associations. So like for malls, we can go for associations, or for restaurants, we can go for associations where you don't have to pay for the space. And if you have the self space, so again, you do the calculations that how much of input or how much of benefit that you can get from that land. And once you are establishing the charging point, so how much that you can get from that land. And then you do the comparison based on which you take the decisions. So generally it is suggested that the association is a better way in case of the space cost rather than establishing at your own rented places. Yes, but if you have the very good footfall, you are at a particular of a joints, maybe in some parking lot, in some mall where there is the movie theaters, you have got the chance, then it is the rented would be sufficient for you. The capital cost, if I'm talking about, so in case of a capitals, you have to spend towards the chargers and means the equipments, how many number of chargers, in which capacities that you are establishing. Then you have to take the grid connection. And for that purpose, the security deposits are required. So that's what also you need to consider. And then the parking space. So you have to take the space, and for that you have to pay the upfront fees, like to the people whose land is there. So all these things will be considered under your capital cost. Thereafter, in the operational cost, it will come your electricity cost. And again, there is a limitation on that. So how much amount of energy that you are taking from the DISCOM, that is metered, and that is the electricity cost that will be coming. Then it is the spares that is getting used in your charging equipment, and then the replacements. So like the replacements might happen due to the electrical failures or something, or if it is the swapping station, so the battery replacements might happen. So these are the operational cost considerations that will be there. Then it is the maintenance cost that will come to you, which will be related to the grid power failures of the grid conditions, and then the maintenance for the chargers, and then the space maintenance, like you are having the CCTV, the water facilities, the food facilities might be. So maintenance of that space. So those will be considered under your maintenance cost. So these things are once you are, and then the manpower. So generally for a small charging station, for a mid-sized charging stations, one skilled and one unskilled person could be well enough for you. So this is the, once you are uh, uh, once you are calculating the rate of your charging, like per kilowatt rate that you are giving, or maybe per hour rate that you are giving. So whatever the rate that you are giving to your customer for the getting vehicle, is getting his vehicle charged. So you have to consider all these parameters, and based on which you can calculate your things. So it will be in two terms. One is the fixed cost that you will be charging to your customer, and then another is the variable cost. So variable cost will be based on the grid energy consumption, and the fixed cost will be dependent upon all these parameters, like for the space, the operationals, the maintenance, and the manpower cost that it will be coming. So, and based on which you can always consider about your break-evens, and then based on the operational hours also it is considered. So in case of a public charging stations, like once you plan to charge to your customers, so in case of a public charging stations, you are charging towards the electricity cost, and now there is that around in the rate you are getting the charge maximum of 15% of a margin that you can take. Like you are getting it at a 1 rupee, so you can charge at around 1 rupee 15 paise, around that rate. That's what the electricity cost is. And then the fixed charges I was talking about, based on your different of your fixed costs. And then some people are charging towards the parking service fee also. Like what happens that many of the people will go to the mall, maybe cinema hall or somewhere, and your resource remains busy for 3-4 hours. It might also be possible that his vehicle got charged in 1 hour only, and his vehicle is using your facility for the next 2 to 3 hours because he is not come back. So in that condition, you have to also charge towards the timing. And people are doing this thing that apart from the electricity cost and the fixed charges, the timing based charges are also getting employed. So these three things are summed up together for the public chargings, and then the customers are getting charged. Whereas in case of swapping stations, again, the energy consumption cost that you are taking. So you are taking the battery pack, the discharged battery packs, calculate that how much energy it has, and then you are giving the fresh battery pack. Again, the difference that you calculate through your swapping station, and you charge for the energy cost. So that is the part of the swapping station. It remains programmed into that. Thereafter, it is the fixed charges that you do, the service fee towards the swapping, and then it comes the SOH depletion rates. So like if your battery pack is getting depleted at every charging and discharging cycle, so you have to give a fixed rate charge towards that also. And if one is using better, so the SOH depletion will be little slower. In case of a person who is using the battery very harshly, so maybe 2C rate or a 3C rate of a discharge he is doing, most of the time he is doing the acceleration, so his SOH depletion rate will be little higher, and you can make a variable rate for the SOH depletion based on the SOH calculations. So these three things are added for the swapping stations. People are asking related like break evens. So it is a generic trend. It is not a fixed I'm giving, but generic trend I'm sharing with you that around of a 19 to 11 months it take for the people who has the good footfall and operational hours of their charging stations around 12 to 14 hours. But if your operational hour is a little lesser and less of footfalls, it can take you 2 to 3 years also. So, but nowadays 2 to 2.5 years or 3 years is the maximum to get the break even into this charging business. So these are the concerns related to the content. And then the requirements. So in case of requirements, virtually you don't require any the license as per the Ministry of Power. You don't require any license. But for the states, different states have the rules as per the property utilizations, and there the authorizations might be required, but license is not. The grid connection that you require for that purpose and security deposits are being done in case of each grid power kilowatt, like per kilowatt, the security deposits are required through the DISCOMs. And apart from that, some states like Haryana and UP, thereafter Karnataka, has the fixed charges also per kilowatt, like 100, 200 rupees per kilowatt fixed charges. Some of them are giving the discount, some of them are not charging, but some of them are charging it, the fixed rates. Thereafter, the charging equipments that you require, it is the AC001 charger, DC001 charger, CHAdeMO charger, and CCS charger. So depends upon the kilowatt requirements. So if it is the CHAdeMO and CCS, it will go to your beyond 50 kilowatt of a range. And it is AC001 will start with the 3 kilowatt of a range. So 3 kilowatt charger, 15 kilowatt charger, 30 kilowatt charger, 50 kilowatt charger, 300 kilowatt charger. These are the different categories that is available. So around 4 to 5 chargers that is required if you are going to establish all the charging types. So it is the 4 to 5 type of chargers that is required. Again, for the subsidy concerns, also the establishments of the number of minimum chargers and the types are required for this purpose. The CMS solution is a software based and companies are providing it based on the license. So based on the number of charging stations, the licenses are provided for the CMS and the mobile applications, and you can customize it as per your requirements. So personalizations could be done. So if you are planning to start the charging business, so you have to get concerned about the charging equipments, and these things are ready-made available solutions for you, for your company. The personifications could be done. And in case of a subsidies, many of people are asking. So some of the states are giving the subsidies, and again, there are the limitations. The subsidies are being given for the cost towards the charging equipments, towards your space cost and other things. The subsidies are not given. Towards your investment, towards the charging equipments, the subsidies are given, and it is in the range of 20 to 25% of the total cost. And again, there is a limitation that the states require that if you are wanting the subsidy, then the charging equipment should be beyond 50 kilowatt of a capacity, means you should have the CHAdeMO and CCS chargers also installed in your place. Like in case of a Maharashtra, if I'm talking about, so they want all the type of chargers installed in that in your charging station, only they will allow for the subsidy. And then there are the number of charging stations limitations is also there, like 250 to 300 is the numbers that they are allowing, that up to these number of they will provide you the subsidy. Again, there is a limit on the capping on the money. So around 10 lakhs of rupees, maximum 2 lakh to 10 lakh of rupees, the subsidy amount the governments are allowing. So these are the concerns. So as per your state requirement, I can't talk about each and every state right now, but yes, as per your government, as per your state, you can look at the subsidy rules, and these are varying between this only. So this is the basic requirements for starting your charging business. And this was it related to the session today. Hope you have find it meaningful. And